Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to associate myself with the remarks of Mr. Reed. It's rare in hearings like this that we have an opportunity to witness courage and bipartisanship, and someone who laid it out very clearly, both in terms of the people in his district and hardly greedy, but certainly impacted by a tradition that has long been established dating back to the Civil War. And yes, you can come to Augie and Ray's in East Hartford and they will tell you about the double taxation. They will tell you about how they anticipated and were told they were going to get a tax cut and instead found themselves paying a tax increase. This is true in a number of impacted states. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Let's be honest. I mean, Barack Obama and Democrats on this committee were all in favor of tax cuts. No question about it. And have proposed them. But as Mr. Thompson has already indicated, there was no public hearing with respect to that. There was no opportunity with regard to that. Instead, a bill was rushed through, and much to everyone's chagrin, and I dare say even my colleagues on the other side, what was found is that this is very unfair and a big gap that's picked up by states who pay their taxes, especially their local property taxes in communities. And it's not the wealthy, though certainly wealthy people benefit, but teachers and firefighters and construction workers and nurses and people, everyday citizens who rely on these benefits who are impacted. And what's the most galling thing to them is they look at the bill that passed, and frankly, you know, I haven't met too many people that don't favor tax cuts. But what they look at is the fairness. And when 83% of your tax cut goes to 1% of the people, then that becomes unpalatable. And then when you're also told, and how are we going to pay for that, when much to everyone's astonishment, as Mr. Blumenauer pointed out, that, well, that doesn't apply to the business community. It just applies to families. And how are we going to pay for that? Well, we're going to have entitlement reform. What do they mean by entitlements? Well, entitlements means we're going to have cuts to Social Security and Medicare. So that's no secret to anyone on this side of the aisle, and I dare say to our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. There's much that can be learned. We were both favored of tax cuts. We ought to be able to, in the future going forward, sit down, as Mr. Blumenauer has suggested, as has Mr. Reed, and come to what is a healthy conclusion for the country, working together to promote an economy, but also to safeguard the concerns of local communities as well. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back my time.